Hello, magandang araw! Welcome to our channel. I am Suzette Ancheta and I will be presenting 10 science concepts as part of our General Education Science Review series for those who will be taking the LET in September. Are you ready? Let's start with question number 1. Which choice corresponds to the lowest ranking coal type? Is it A, charcoal, B, anthracite, C, bituminous, or D, lignite? Okay, so among these choices, we can actually eliminate charcoal because it is not naturally produced. So it is not one of the ranked coals. So which is it? Anthracite, bituminous, or lignite? If you are thinking it's letter D, lignite, then you are correct. So lowest ranking coal, lignite. So they both start with letter L, lowest lignite. So don't forget that. Lignite is also referred to as the brown coal. So it is the lowest ranking coal because it has the lowest heating value, lowest carbon content, and it also has the highest moisture content. Let's see the detailed comparison among the three types of coal. So you can see there the lignite or the brown coal, bituminous or the soft coal, and the anthracite is the hard coal. The red arrow indicates the carbon and heating value, and the blue arrow indicates the moisture content. So as I mentioned a while ago, lignite has the lowest heating value, lowest carbon content, and it has the highest moisture, while the anthracite has the highest heating value. It also has the highest carbon content, and it has the lowest moisture among the three. So anthracite is the highest ranking coal. Okay, to sum up, lowest ranking coal, lignite. Anthracite is the highest ranking coal. Ang taray ng anthracite, highest ranking. Okay, don't forget that. Let's go to question number 2. A question on biology. What type of symbiotic relationship is exhibited by tapeworms living inside the intestines of mammals? Is it letter A, commensalism, letter B, mutualism, letter C, parasitism, or letter D, predation? The answer is letter C. Of course, it's parasitism. So the tapeworm here in our question is an endoparasite since it is living inside its host. We also have some ectoparasite like fleas. Now, in parasitism, we have two organisms involved, the host and the parasite. Of course, there is a negative and positive relationship in this two organisms. So the host is negatively affected. It is the one harmed, while the parasite benefits from this association. While in commensalism, there is a positive and a neutral relationship among the two organisms. One is benefited while the other is unaffected. For example, the orchid in a tree trunk. So the orchid benefits from the relationship while the tree is unharmed. All right. In mutualism, both organisms mutually benefit from the association. For example, in pollination, the bees and the flowers gain positive or the bees and the flowers are both benefited in this kind of relationship. While in predation, there's also the predator and the prey. So this is again positive and negative relationship. The predator is the one who consumes, so eats up the other organism, which is the prey. The prey again is the one being consumed or being eaten by the predator in this type of relationship. Now, there is also competition. This is denoted by a negative relationship because both organisms compete for resources. That's why eventually, of course, if for example, they will consume all the food, of course, it will not be beneficial for both of them. And also, there is a mensalism where this is a zero and negative relationship. The other is unaffected while the other is negatively affected. For example, some bacteria inhibits the growth of molds. So the mold is negatively affected, but the bacteria is not affected at all. So that is an example of a mensalism. I hope it is clear. You just have to check some other examples of this symbiotic relationships because sometimes scenarios or situations are presented in the exam and you have to identify what type of relationship is presented. All right, so let's proceed to question number three. What is defined as the force of gravity acting on an object? Is it A, weight, B, mass, C, capacity, or D, volume? Yes, it is weight indeed. Letter A. So I made a detailed comparison so that we can understand this concept better. So, in terms of definition, mass is the amount of matter in an object, while weight is the force of gravity that acts on an object. Now, mass is constant everywhere, so it remains unchanged regardless of the location, while the weight varies. So, the weight is affected by the force of gravity on that specific location where the object is being weighed. For the formula, for the mass, it can be computed as by force over acceleration, while the weight you can multiply mass and the force or the acceleration due to gravity, which is g. The SI unit that represents mass is kilograms, it's in kg, while the weight is represented by N or newtons. That's kilogram, that meter per second squared. Mass is a scalar quantity. It means it only has a magnitude, while weight is a vector quantity, which means it both has magnitude and direction. Now, to give you an example to make this concept clear, a person who has a mass of 50 kilogram on Earth will be also 50 kilogram on Mars and still 50 kilograms on the moon. But the weight of the same person will vary because Earth, Mars, and Moon have different acceleration due to gravity. As you can see, the value of g on Earth is 9.8 meter per second. On Mars, it is 3.7 meter per second squared, and on the Moon, it's 1.6 meter per second squared. Since we get the weight by multiplying mass and the g, which is the acceleration due to gravity, so that's 50 kg multiplied by 9.8 meter per second squared, you have 490 newton on Earth, no? While on Mars, the person will only weigh 185 newtons, and on the moon, that same person with 50 kilogram mass will weigh 80 newtons only on the moon. So, do you get it? The mass will stay constant regardless of the location, but the weight varies because it is affected by both the mass as well as the acceleration due to gravity of the location where the object is being weighed. I hope that is clear. Let's go to question number four. What is the hardest mineral in the Mohs scale? So, by the way, what is the Mohs scale? The Mohs hardness scale rates the hardness of minerals. So, this has a scale from 1 to 10. And it also tells how well a certain mineral resists being scratched. It was developed by a German geologist by the name of Friedrich Mohs in 1812. And in this scale, the hardest mineral rated 10 is diamond. Okay, let's see the illustration of the Mohs hardness scale. So as you can see, the softest mineral is 1, and that is talc, while the hardest among them is diamond, which is 10. So a higher number means it's a harder mineral and it has the ability to scratch those in the lower numbers. Those that have lower values, I mean. So, example, since diamond has a value of 10, it can scratch corundums. It is harder than corundum, which is in at the scale of 9, no? For example, we have topaz, which is at 8, and apatite, which is at 5. Topaz is harder, so it has the ability to scratch apatite. But this is not reversible. Apatite cannot scratch topaz. No, only the harder minerals can scratch the softer ones. So that is the essence of the Mohs scale. It represents the hardness of minerals as well as the resistance to scratch. I hope that is clear. Let's go to question number 5. All of the following are evidences of a chemical change except A. Formation of a new substance, evolution of gas, change in color, or D. Change in shape. So, physical versus chemical change. What is the best answer? Are you thinking A, formation of new substance? No, it's not. It's actually the major evidence that the chemical change happened. The answer is letter D. It's the change in shape. Let's say the difference. This is from Science Notes. All right, chemical and physical change. When we say a chemical change happened, a new substance has been formed. No, there's a new chemical identity, different from that of the original substance. Example, when there is combustion, rotting, rusting, and digestion. While if we talk about physical changes, there will be only change in phase, change in state, or change in form. But there is no formation of a new substance. So example, when ice cream melts, when you shred the paper, when you boil water, or when you chop woods, there will only be changes in the physical state or form, but there is no formation of a new substance. So the answer for letter D, for number 5, is letter D, change in shape. If you have any questions, by the way, feel free to drop a comment. All right, let's go to question number 6. How many protons are there in a nitrogen atom if it has a mass number of 14 and an atomic number of 7? Okay, let's see. Do you have any idea about this question? Okay. So this is what you usually see in a periodic table. So doon sa problem natin, we have an atomic number of 7. And ito yung ganito siya nakarepresent sa periodic table. No? 7 is the atomic number. And when we say atomic number, it actually refers to the number of protons in an atom. Number of protons daw yung atomic number. Ano yung tinatanong sa question natin? How many protons are there? Therefore, kung ano yung atomic number, siya rin yung magiging number of protons. Kaya ang sagot natin for number 6 would be 7. No? Atomic number refers to the number of protons. And take note that in neutral atoms, the number of protons is also equal to the number of electrons. So, tatlong values pala yung pare-pareho. Atomic number refers to the number of protons, and neutral atoms has the same number of protons and electrons. So, tatlong value yung magkakapareho na yon. Atomic number, protons, and electrons. Don't forget that, okay? So, for example, this is a representation of the nitrogen atom. So, in the middle or at the center, you have the nucleus, which has both the neutrons and the protons. So, the protons there are the yellow particles, no? So if you'll count this is actually 7. There are 7 protons in the nucleus. And you can see the red particles orbiting around the nucleus. There are 2 electrons in the first energy level, and there are 5 electrons on the second energy level. So 2 plus 5 is 7. So that's what I'm saying, right? The number of protons is equal to the number of electrons in a neutral atom. Now, there's also a mention there of a mass number. So, in the periodic table, that is the mass number, 14. Okay, so the mass number refers naman to the number of protons plus neutrons. Saan ba makikita yung protons at neutrons? They are at the center. They are in the nucleus. So, kung ano yung mass ng nucleus is actually the mass of both the protons and the neutrons. Okay, since meron dito sa problem natin, may given siya na protons, may given siya na mass number, pero wala siyang number of neutrons na binigay. So, dito sa illustration, pwede nating bilangin. Pero kung walang illustration at sinabi lang mass number is 14 and atomic number is 7, paano natin kukunin yung number of neutrons? We can actually use the formula mass number minus atomic number, you will get the number of neutrons. So therefore, in this example, the mass number is 14. The number of proton, which is the atomic number, is 7. Therefore, the number of our neutrons is 7. Okay, madali lang, no? Pag nalilito pa kayo, pwede niyo, of course, gamitin ang ating mnemonics. The ape man. So, atomic number, the same as the protons, the same as electrons. This is for neutral atoms only, ha? Iba na yung magiging number ng electrons kapag and protons kapag meron na tayong charged atoms. All right. And then yung man naman, it can be actually it can actually be interpreted in two ways. Mass number is equal to atomic number plus neutrons, or you can also use it as mass number minus the atomic number equals neutrons. Same din, no? Just be careful lang kung saan nyo ilalagay yung addition and yung subtraction sign. Pero napakita ko naman na, di ba, yung nucleus meron siyang neutrons and protons. So, isipin nyo na lang yun kapag i-combine nyo yun, makukuha nyo yung mass number. So, be careful, wag nyong ipagpalit yung formula again. Mass number equals atomic number plus neutrons. Or if you want to get the neutrons, you can use the formula mass number minus the atomic number. I hope that is clear. I hope you can use these mnemonics in your practice drills and in the actual exam. So let's try this one. So we have an illustration. Ano nga yung nasa gitna? Meron tayong uncharged particles which are red. These are the neutrons. Neutrons, uncharged neutral. And then the yellow ones, positively charged electrons, positive protons. PP, positive for protons. And yung umiikot sa labas would be the electrons. So very well represented itong atom na to. Kaya pwede nyo na lang bilangin and i-fill out na itong ating atomic number, protons, and electrons. So, madali lang to. Atomic number would be 3 protons. Number of protons, 3. Number of electrons, 3. Mass number is 7. Paano natin kinuha yung 7? Lahat ng particles sa gitna, no? The atomic number plus the neutrons. Kaya 7 lahat yan. And the number of neutrons, paano na yun ulit kunin? Mass number, which is 7, minus atomic number, which is 3, you'll get 4 for the neutrons. So kung wala tayong drawing na representation at ito lang periodic table symbol ang makita natin, so paano naman to? Given ulit ang atomic number, which is 8, and mass number, which is 16. So atomic number is, try to fill out. Try to complete this. I'll give you a few seconds para ma-check kung naintindihan yung aking na-discuss. Okay, so atomic number is 8. The number of protons, of course, is 8. And the number of electrons is 8 as well. So mass number, it's given, it's 16. Number of neutrons, how do we get the number of neutrons? The mass number, 16, minus the atomic number 8. We get 8 also as the number of neutrons. Nakuha ba to? Yay! Of course, the science majors, this is very basic concepts, no? Pero inclusive po ang ating review. Kaya ganito yan. Kaya kailangan natin isa-isahin. Okay, may question po ba sa number na to? Number 6 pa lang tayo, no? Okay, we only have 10 items. If we go to question number 7, which animal phylum contains the most number of species? Is it A, Mollusca, B, Chordata, C, Arthropoda, or D, Echinodermata? What is the answer? Yes, it is letter C. It is indeed arthropoda or the arthropods. The arthropods actually consists 80% of all known animal species. And what are the representative organisms under the phylum Arthropoda? We have the insects, we have the arachnids, and we also have some crustaceans. How about mollusca? Mollusca is the second largest phylum in the animal kingdom. And what are the representative organisms? We have the squids, the scallops, the octopus, and the snails. And we also have chordata or the chordates. We belong to the phylum Chordata, so we have the mammals, the reptiles, the amphibians, as well as the fish. And for the echinodermata or the echinoderms, we have starfish, sea lilies, and sea cucumbers. Okay, another question regarding the phylum Arthropoda, tinatanong kung saan phylum nakabilong yung mga vectors ng dengue and malaria. So, since the vectors are mosquitoes, they belong to phylum Arthropoda. Okay, clear? Largest phylum Arthropoda, second largest would be Mollusca in the animal kingdom. Number 8, which of the following is an example of physical weathering? Okay, what is weathering, by the way? Weathering is the breakdown of rocks, soil, and mineral particles, and weathering can be classified as either physical, chemical, or biological. Sorry. So physical weathering, like physical change, there's no formation of a new substance, and the weathering is caused by agents like wind, gravity, water, and temperature change. So, dito sa question natin, which is an example of physical weathering? We defined physical weathering already. So, do you have any idea? Wala pa? Okay. The answer for number 8 is actually frost wedging. This frost wedging is actually a physical weathering. So what happens is that frost wedging is also known as the freeze thaw. So for example, in the rock crevices, water will enter the crevices, and then when it will become ice, if the temperature drops and the water becomes ice, it causes the rocks to crack, no? So that is actually the mechanism for frost wedging or the freeze thaw. Another example under physical weathering would be wind abrasion. As you can see, yung rock na iba na yung form niya, na iba na yung shape. This is because of the force of the wind hitting the rock. Constant hitting of the wind, no? Nagkakaroon ng abrasion. And also exfoliation, this is due to differences in temperature. So, mainit sa araw, malamig sa gabi. So, it will soften the outer part of the rock and eventually it will exfoliate. So, these are some examples of physical weathering. When it comes to chemical weathering, as in chemical change, there is a formation of a new substance. So, I got this figure from geology.com. So, these are the types of chemical weathering. So, you have the dissolution, hydrolysis, oxidation, carbonation, a spheroidal weathering, and hydration. So, in these types of weathering, the important thing to note is there is a formation of a new substance. And the last type of weathering, this occurs because of the intervention of living organisms, like in this example, the tree and certain organism living on a rock. I think it's a trilobite. All right. So that is about weathering. Hydrolysis, carbonation, and oxidation are all examples of chemical weathering. Okay, let's go to question number 9. Which planet has the most moon in our solar system? Is it A, Saturn, B, Jupiter, C, Mercury, and D, Mars? So, what do you think? So I got this data from the NASA website, and the planet with the most moons is the Saturn. And as of March 2025, the data says Saturn has already 274 confirmed moons. And one of the moons that you can see in Saturn is the Titan. And what's peculiar about this moon is that it has its own atmosphere. Very unique, diba? So let's check the others. In Jupiter, there are four famous moons. You have the Ganymede, the Io, the Europa, and the Callisto, right? And one of which is the Ganymede. This is the largest moon in our solar system. Take note of that. In Mercury, how many moons do you think? does Mercury have? Nothing. No moons in both Mercury and Venus. And Mars has two moons named Phobos and Deimos. So this was derived from the mythology, yung kanilang pangalan, no? Phobos and Deimos. Okay, you have to remember Saturn has the most number of moons, and also Saturn is the least dense among the planets in our solar system. That's it for question number 9. We go to the last question. What is the most abundant protein in the human body? Is it A, keratin, B, hemoglobin, C, collagen, or D, insulin? What do you think? Are you thinking keratin? No, I'm sorry, it's not. It is in fact collagen. Collagen accounts to 30% of the total protein in the human body. No, where can we see collagen? The skin, ligaments, tendons, and bones also, no? Na maraming collagen dyan. And yung keratin naman, this is a structural protein, of course. It's present in our hair and nails. Hemoglobin, this is the protein attached in RBCs. And the main function is the delivery of oxygen to the tissues. And lastly is insulin, that is actually a protein hormone. This is involved in the regulation of blood sugar level. It is produced by pancreas. O lagi rin yan tinatanong ha, yung insulin, yung pancreas, glucagon. So, take note of that. Insulin actually lowers the blood sugar level para maging normal ang level natin ng sugar sa ating blood. Okay, it is produced by the pancreas. As a pang question, ano yung gland na both nag-act as exocrine and endocrine gland? The answer would be pancreas. O, ayan, marami na tayong in-interject na other questions. So, hindi lang 10 concepts na yung ating na-touch dito sa ating discussion. So, yay! Congratulations! That's the end of the third part of our Science Tidbits Part 3. So, for the Part 4, it will be uploaded on July 11, 2025. So, pasensya na medyo weekly lang ang upload. Nagpapagaling pa si Ma'am Zet. But I hope sa next season ay mas makafocus na ako sa pagtulong sa mga magte-take ng LET. Okay, pray for me. And I will be praying for your success for your upcoming LET exam. Okay, thank you very much. For additional information, pwede po kayong magdagdag sa comment section. Always welcome. Always welcome po ang inyong suggestion, comments, and additional information. So please subscribe to our channel, Abet and Zed. Thank you very much for your time. Fighting! Kaya mo yan, kapatid.